Okay, it says it's recording now, so.
Okay. Hi, and welcome to the Quick and Dirty Romance Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Skye McDonald.
I'm Sarah Smith.
As you all know, we've been podcasting for some time, and we are joined today by Brittni and Andrea, two of our readers and friends via Instagram, social media. And we are broadcasting this on a Zoom meeting because we just kind of wanted to sit around and take a break out of this mundane quarantine life and talk about our books with these lovely people who have wanted to talk about them with us. So as you know, Quick and Dirty Romance is part of the Frolic Network, and we are excited about that. But wherever this goes and whatever we do, we thought we'd just jump in and have a chat and see what happens with it. So thanks for listening. Let's see what goes on. So Brittni, as we were saying, you were the one who kind of suggested this because you were reading Nemesis and you were like, we got to talk. So why don't you kick us off? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just mentioning that how I got introduced to you guys was my girls and I, we love the library. We usually go a couple times a week, grab some books, and right before good old Corona shut the country down, we ran into just our little local library, and I just started grabbing books left and right. I'm kind of a book picker. If it's a cute little, picture on the front, I grab it, and just kind of ran through the mommy section, as my girls call it, and grabbed a few. Saw Sarah's book. My husband's a construction engineer, so I saw it looked, kind of construction-esque. So inspiration of him, I grabbed it and started reading it. And fell in love with just her writing style, the way that she just had a way to make it fun, make it not too deep, but deep enough to like establish a relationship, just fun and quirky, like something that I just needed both as a mom and someone stuck inside. It kind of gave you that vacation from Corona. And then afterwards, I happened to stumble upon one of your, Sarah and Skye's, what was it, like a live or whatever that you guys had hosted. And we actually started talking about like personal training and running and that stuff. And obviously me being the researcher person, I had to look and see, what your writing style was like, and read Not Suitable for Work and completely fell in love with that one too. And I can definitely tell how you guys draw each other together as far as like your writing style. You guys definitely have differences, but you also just have fun writing. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's fun and it takes you on a vacation, but you also almost feel like you can live through each character as you're reading through it. So where I got thinking, like, each character I stumbled upon, whether it was Ben or Celeste or Emmy or Tate, that I was just like, who do I know that I feel like I know these people, so I have to like connect one of my personal relationships to these people so I can be like, have that real person as my friend that was out of the book. So yeah, I love your guys' style. And then obviously I read Off the Record and then Nemesis. And I can pick apart a book. I read research all day long for my job. And so I'm like, what's missing? What do I really like? And there's no parts that I found missing from all four of the books that I read from you guys, that I'm just like, I don't feel like anything's incomplete. I feel like you could add more if you wanted to. Like, obviously you can extend somebody's story when they get married, when they have kids, la-di-da-di-da. But like, I felt a conclusion at the end of the story that I'm like, oh, I feel like they're a good place in life, because some of these characters had such like a crazy background or a crazy love story. And you're like, I just need like absolution for them. And you get to the end and you're like, oh, okay. I like that. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's my perspective. And also just the what I was saying about the Bookstagram community. I think that's what it's called. I'm still new to it. And the fact that I could write just a little blurb. I love just giving people a kudos if they do a good job for anything. I'm a words of affirmation and a gift giving person. So if I can give you something that means something for our friendship, or if I can write you a little note that you can keep in your wallet or something like that, just to let you know that you did a good job, whether we talk every day or we've talked one time in our life. So I just wanted to reach out to Sarah at first and be like, hey, I loved your book. It was good. It was fun. It's fun for a mom with small children who's stuck at home. And never in a million years did I think that she'd even have the time to be like, oh, hey, like, let's get to know each other. And then same thing with you, Skye. You know, I meant it from my heart when I wrote to you guys and I said, you guys did an amazing job. But the fact that you guys wanted to establish those connections and be like, hey, I appreciate you too. And hey, will you help by reading my book or something? You know, can you, you know, you let your readers know that they're giving you just as much as you're giving them. So, and I think that, and you, it's like a woman unit of working moms, stay-at-home moms, solely writers that have 5 jobs, and everybody's there to just like uplift everybody. And it's fun and creative and just so like, I'm not a super big feminist or anything like that, but it's still like girl power. Like, we got this. We can support each other.
I love
Aww.
that.
I love it. I just want to say thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. You said so many nice things, and I'm completely unworthy of all of that.
No, you are.
But thank you. Thank you.
It's fantastic. Andrea, you are a writer. You have given us plenty in terms of previous episodes. Like, you've asked questions, we've done the things. We're so excited to be able to FaceTime or Zoom, whatever we call it, with you. How are you, and what's new, and whatever? Jump in.
I'm fine, thank you. I'm kind of nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Yeah, it's very exciting for me to meet you guys and meet, you know, real authors that have published their books and all. And yeah, I agree with Brittni. It's so amazing to have that access to people you admire and that you read their stuff, and it's like I think it was Sarah that I wrote to you first. I read Faker, and it surprised me because I'm one of those people that writes to everyone. Every time that I love a book, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to read your book. I loved your book. But you were like the only one who actually replied to my message. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You replied to me. So, and I think it was because of you that I found Skye's books. And I think it was when Off the Record was about to be released. And I started researching her and realized there was another book. So I bought Not Suitable for Work, and I loved it. And then I bought the next one, and then I bought the next one, and I'm like, and yeah, I'm an aspiring author. Also aspire to write romance books. I'm trying to write my debut novel, and everything that you guys have said in the podcast has been really, really helpful for me, especially because I'm not, my English is not my first language. I'm from Guatemala. And it's been very hard for me to, to learn grammar because it's very, very difficult. English is a very, very difficult language. But it's been so helpful, and I'm excited. I'm excited to share it with you guys. And I'm loving the community that you guys have been building with the podcast. It's been so welcoming, and so like I said, the access that we have to ask questions, and it's great to see that you're not being selfish with the knowledge that you have and that you want to share it with everybody else, that's something great. And I feel like that's what the world needs right now. We need we need to support each other in the things that we love and the things that we enjoy. And romance books have been very helpful for me. Because of my mental health issues, I was suggested that I started reading, because I loved, I used to love memoirs and nonfiction books, but sometimes they don't give you the happy ending that you need to, to feed the positive emotions that you need, to survive. So I started reading romance because of the happy endings, and it's been wonderful. Now I'm just obsessed with romance.
Oh,
I am like smiling until my face hurts listening
yeah.
to all this. I mean, like, I had no idea where we'd go with this, and just hearing like all of this positivity is just beyond beautiful. I don't know, like, I guess for me, and Sarah, I know you'll jump in, but like, I wrote these books so people would be happier. I wrote them so they could light up and so they could enjoy things. And I love hearing that is successful. I love talking to people about it. Anytime anybody starts like talking about my stories, I'm like, be careful, because I will keep going. But it means so much that like that kind of positivity has been able, especially at this time, but like at any time, but like I'm like blown away. But you're right about the community. It's like, it's incredible. I had no notion of ever like, I don't know how you don't interact with your readers. Like, they're why we're here. And like hearing somebody has enjoyed my book or has, gotten something out of the podcast is just like, that's like you were saying, just like, that's why I'm here. That's what I want to talk about, is whatever you want to talk about. I think it's fantastic.
Well, I think the level of commitment of engaging with your readers is another thing too. Like, I would almost rather have someone not respond to me instead of just being like, okay, thanks, here's the link to my next novel. Mm-hmm. Like, there's been a couple, I loved your book, and it's like 2 seconds later, it's a like, and it's an automated link. And I'm like, now I really feel like, you could have just liked it and left it at that. But now it's, buy my next book. Well, of course I'm going to buy your next book because I loved your first reading, but am I going to buy Skye's book, who just spent a week DMing me, those kinds of things, and establishing a relationship with me? Am I going to buy her $16 book over your $4 book on Kindle or whatever? I'm probably going to go spend the extra. It's like support local and, those kinds of things, but also just because you're willing to develop those relationships. And I want to support someone who is just has those interpersonal skills that I value so much, and we don't have to be best friends. Like, that's totally fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know I'm not. Like, I'm that person that I'll message you at midnight because I'm like, oh my gosh, I finished the book and it was so awesome. And then, I may message you again and be like, oh, and I just thought about this. What about that? I talk and converse with people, and that's not everybody's cup of tea. But if you are just going to push me off and be like, oh, but don't forget to buy my next book, then I'm probably going to be like, oh, well, maybe next month. There's other people that I really want to help and support. So
I'm going to back that Brittni absolutely does that. She DM'd me. She was like, a Camaro. Nick drives a Camaro. Oh my God, yes. And I was like, yes.
I that's my dream car. That's where I was really like, that's my girl right there. 1969 Camaro SS has always been my car. So as soon as I seen that, and I was like, oh, soul sister.
Anytime I see a Camaro on the street, I'm like, hey, Nick.
Oh, you know it.
Such
too.
a nerd.
You know it too.
Oh yeah.
I just want to say thank you, Brittni and Andrea. You guys are like, it's awesome getting DMs or messages, however anybody wants to communicate with me. Like, that's really sweet. And like, I guess I don't go into things thinking like, oh, if I like text them back, I'm gonna sell my book. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing like that. It's just like, oh, somebody likes what I did. That's kind of exciting. And like, it makes me feel like what I did was not a total waste of time. So
Sure.
you both are so sweet. And like, and I'm sorry, Andrea, that no other author has like gotten, you know, in touch with you. That's really disheartening. I mean, I know people are busy, but you can like reach out, you know,
Sometimes I've gotten like likes on the DMs or just thank you or the links like was saying. And I'm like, okay, well, they read what I had to say and that's okay. But yeah, but it's fine and thank you, really, thank you for being so great with your fans.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so sweet to say. I don't even think of it that I'm just like, oh, look, people who read my book, I should probably like send them a care package because, but I can't afford to do that. So like the least I can do is like talk to people. I don't know. That's how
I know.
I'm just like, yeah.
I'm with you on that, Sarah. I'm like, do you want more stuff? I can give you more. There's an epilogue here. You want to read? You like it? Okay, go. No, I know, but I mean, like, I know that feeling too, because I've reached out to people in my own journey and they're like, cool. And it's like, okay, thanks.
Right.
But, you know, Sarah and I guess, Sarah, you know, we've been working together since we both had the manuscripts and we were doing the pitches. So it's cool to hear like somebody say how they can see the same but different kind of style. Like I always think of our style as being quite different, although not like contemporary romance, enemies to lovers, and blah, but like I love the way that we have like our different spins on it. But that's cool. Like it's really
say that Sarah almost, and I don't know if it's because of the background of Emmy in your story that she's like her family's from the Hawaiian Islands and things like that, that I think of more almost like a beachy background. And then Skye, you're like, I always think of like a live background. I don't even know like how to do, but you know, you get that like tone in the back of your mind, like not dark, but I don't, you know, like gritty, your characters are just a lot more like, and I don't even know how to describe it, but do you know what I mean? And I'm sure that's kind of what you guys were getting at when you were writing these stories and things like that. But you guys both just have so many similarities too, that I'm like, oh, I can see why they're friends. But also, you know, this is, I don't even know how to describe it, but that probably would make no sense to anybody that was listening to this. But
no, yes.
It makes sense to me, and if it makes no sense to anybody listening, you know, go read the books. Andrea, what is your manuscript about? Like, what kind of a romance? Tell us.
So it's a second chance romance. I am obsessed with second chance romances for some reason, and it's about this girl who was born in LA and went back to Guatemala with her parents and comes back with no knowledge of English or anything about the American culture. And she starts getting bullied at school because of her accent and because she's a little bit chubby and she's just different because she comes from a different background. So she meets this little boy who starts being her friend, and they go through school together. But then at some point he does something very bad to her. It's not bad intended, but he does something very bad to her, and they break it off, and then they find each other 15 years later. But the thing about her is that she changes because she's so traumatized about everything that happened to her. She changes herself, very radical changes, and then when they meet up again, he can't recognize her. So he's not gonna be able to recognize, and he's like I didn't know at the beginning why he didn't recognize her. And then I found out that he's just he's a very clueless guy. Like, he's the most distracted person in the entire world. And he's just like, he just doesn't know. He doesn't notice. Like, he's not clever. He doesn't have that cleverness to see certain things. So he doesn't recognize her, and he falls in love again with her. And she's trying to, no, like, this isn't what I want. But he falls in love with her again for the same reasons that he falls in love with her at the first time. And she finds out that he really is the guy who she thought he was when they were younger. But the thing is with him is that he's a type 1 diabetic, and what he needs when they find each other again, what he needs is insurance, because he doesn't have money to buy insulin. So she is forced to hire him where she's working at, and that's how the story evolves. I'm still like, I know how it begins and I know how it ends, but I'm trying to connect dots right now. So that's basically the plot of my story.
I had the pleasure of reading like the first part of it, and I love it, and it's such a cute. I really love it, and I know that you're still working on it, and I totally understand, like, it is really difficult, to like figure out a story and figure out how you want everything to play out. But like, I hope you stick with it, and I hope you continue it.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Oh.
Thank you for saying that. Like, it encourages me. Your email encouraged me a lot. Because I live with my mom and my sister and stepdad, and my sister is the one who's been reading my stuff, because she is a type 1 diabetic. So I want it to be as realistic as possible in terms of the diabetes part. So she's been reading everything, and I was so, like, I am a very shy person, and I'm like, I don't know if I should email her or not. She's like, she's giving you her email, just do it. And I'm like, okay. She was like, she liked it. You see? Now keep doing it.
I was gonna say, if you need a reader at some point, you let me know, because I would love to do that.
I would be honored if you guys would.
I'd be happy to
read.
I'd be happy to. Actually, just did a thing yesterday. Like, I think that at any level of writing, you're a writer, even if you're writing as a hobby for fun. But I know that feeling of like showing your work to somebody. So yeah, absolutely. Whenever you're ready for somebody. I love what you were saying about like figuring out why he was doing what he was doing. When you were saying that, I was like, yeah, I know that feeling. Like when characters are acting a certain way or they are a certain way and like you don't know why, and then like after a while their story like comes to you and you're like, oh, that's why you're doing that. It's such a weird like writer's thing, I think, but like I totally know what you mean. I was like, yep, I know that one.
Yeah, it's been fun to see in real life everything that I've read, because I'm subscribed to I don't know how many websites for writers, and self-teaching myself, all these stuff, listening to podcasts, and it's been fun to see in real life what everybody talks about. Like, oh, you can hear the characters telling their stories, and you get to meet the people and let the characters react to the situations that you put them in and stuff like that. And it's been really fun, and it's fun to see how much the characters act like me in a certain way, and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I would do that too, or I would say that too, probably, or no, I would say that, it's been fun. I'm having a lot of fun really writing this.
That's fantastic.
And that's honestly what matters. Like, that's why I started writing romance, because it was fun and it was a nice distraction from how annoying and stressful life can be. So yeah, as long as you love it and you keep enjoying yourself, please stick with it. And I know that feeling of like being nervous and like, oh, are they gonna like, I still have that feeling. Like every time I send something into like a beta reader or whoever, a critique partner, I'm like, oh, this sucks. They're gonna hate it. Like it never goes away. I mean, maybe there's some people who just like, they reach a moment and they're like, yep, everything I write is just amazing. But I don't think most people are like that. So that's a very normal feeling. And it's totally like relatable, but like, I hope you don't let it bring you down, because you're a really good writer. And
thank you.
I love
so
your
much.
story. Yeah, sorry. I hope I sound like I don't know what I said, but
No, thank you. It encourages me. It really encourages me. I've been, and with all this, all this stuff that it's been happening in the world, it's been so, I've been down.
Mm-hmm.
I want to grab my computer and just,
Yeah.
it all away. But then it's like, nope, I started it and I just have to keep going and finish it.
Yeah.
Girl, I feel you on that one. There have been many moments on my journey where it's like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm hanging the whole Skye thing up, not doing it, but here we are. What was I going to say? Something about that. I don't know. Shoot, I lost it. Oh, well. But I think it's fantastic, and I would love to read your stuff, so be sure to let me know.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
That would be fantastic. And Sarah, you're like the most supportive reader ever. It's like, I was super nervous. I was nervous to give Sarah Nemesis. I was like, I don't know if she's going to like this one. It's going to be dark. It's darker and Liv is mean, but like, so yeah, I know what you mean. Let's do, like, this is going great. Let's talk about the books. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Sarah, you were talking about the whole, like, why we got started in romance. Brittni and I were talking at the very beginning of this about the fact that I'm an English teacher and I'm a sci-fi fantasy, both geek and English teacher. And like a lot of people in my work life, they always assume that like what I'm writing is sci-fi or fantasy. One of my friends at work was like, oh, so is it a fantasy book? And I was like, yes. Let's go with that.
What kind of fantasy you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But like, it's fun because it's such a beautiful escape. Like everybody wants to fall in love. Like that's what we, Sarah, you know, I've gone on about that. Like, how is this not a fantastic genre? Like, what is not to love about? I mean, and you're not going to love every book in a genre ever, but like just the idea of just reading about a satisfying resolution, an ending that like you can get behind and you can say, yeah, this is real, or it feels real, and that's what I needed. I know that this is a fantasy, because life is difficult, but but anyway, let's take a little time because I know there's like a definitive amount of time. I don't know if we're going to pull out and wrap up in 30 minutes. But,
No, definitely not.
But let's talk about Faker. Let's talk about the ANTI-BELLE. Can we answer any questions for you, or is there something different y'all want to talk about? Anything? Let's
go. I want to ask if Liv is somebody that you know, because I'm telling you, I haven't finished Nemesis. I'm like in 75% of it. That's what my Kindle says. So,
okay.
But I'm just loving her. Like I hated her in the previous books. I just, because I know people, I've met people like her, and I'm just like, I just close myself to that kind of people. But she's like, now that I'm reading about her and her inner struggles and all that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that I judged you so wrong. So I don't know if that's somebody that you knew or just like came out like that.
No, it's not somebody that I know, although I know that personality type. And in some ways, I guess maybe one of the things, because when I wrote her, at first she was a very flat, like she was just to antagonize Celeste. And then she popped up in book 2, and it was like, but then halfway through book 2, I was like, why is this chick like this? What is her story? And then like that unfolded. But like, I guess one of the things that I would say based on what you just said is that some of my dearest friends, which we've talked about in previous podcasts, have said of me in real life that they found me hard to get to know at first. And so like I came off like either really stiff or like rather closed off, not like Liv. I'm not that in your face about anything. I would be more like the whole fake, like stank face kind of RBF. But like, so maybe there's something to the idea of like, you need to know somebody before you know them. But it's a good question. And the answer is quite simply no. Liv to me is one of the most different from me characters, because you, like you were saying, you see yourself in characters. She is really different in my opinion because she's going through this maturing process, which is very different than my own story. But I do know that feeling of people like assuming they know you but they don't know you. So that may be part of it. That's a fun question. Sarah, I want to know a little bit about this novella that's coming out, because I'm jumping on reading it before we do the podcast episode about it. But give us something. Give me a teaser.
Yeah. So it's a second chance romance, which I haven't written before. So that was exciting to do. And it started out as a serial on my blog, on my romance writing blog. And it was inspired by, do you guys remember that song Tequila by Dan and Shay? Does anyone, yeah, or that there's a music video, and it's like, I don't even really listen to them really that much, but they make really good music videos, or whoever makes their music videos makes really good music videos. And I thought like, this could be like a really, I mean, I didn't copy like the concept of the music video, but just like having like a story where like you were with somebody, it was amazing, and then something horrible went wrong. And now like every time you drink that drink that you used to drink with that person, it reminds them of you, which is horrifying. But yeah, I don't know, has anyone been there? But anyway, so yeah, so it's a second chance romance between these two people. The female main character, she's an artist who bartends at her cousin's bar to make extra money to pay her bills. And this guy just walks in one night with his friends, and he loses a bet. And the bet is that like they want like somebody to come and like slap him across the face, which I know that sounds horrifying, but like, it's okay. It's consensual. He likes it. It's good. Yeah. So the main character does that, and that kind of like kicks off their whirlwind romance. And I don't want to give away like what happens, but something happens to drive them apart, and then they end up, you know, seeing each other, and they have to kind of figure out if they want to make it work for real this next time, which obviously they're going to, you know, that it's a romance. But yeah, it's like, it's also a novella, so it's not like a full-length book, but I just wanted to write something quick and fun, and something that would be easy to read. And yeah, so that's the gist of it pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That song does always make me think of you.
Does it really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Aw, thank you.
My favorite, and I asked Skye this, I think, what were we talking yesterday about our favorite guy in our series?
I know that Brittni is working, she's got deals with her daughters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I made them a pallet on the floor, and they're watching a movie. But yeah, always when I'm doing something else, they decide they have a question or need 5,000 snacks. I'm like, you guys are 3 and 6. How much could you possibly eat? So I was asking Skye yesterday. Now I know that you obviously have more guy characters out to the public, but who was like your favorite guy character? I always say guy, but girl character too. Like, who was your favorite you know, who has been your favorite, or even like a favorite of each other's or something, like, you know, because I was telling Skye, I was like, I'm always for any of the kind of like inner confidence guys, because like obviously it has to mimic my husband, because my husband's, you know, my favorite guy, but he's kind of that like quiet kind of offstandish guy. I mean, he'll have beers with people and have fun and stuff like that, but it takes him a lot to break outside of his shell. But obviously like the hockey players are always my favorite, because he was a hockey player, and you know, and he's an engineer, so those like manly man guys, you know, those kind of things. So I'm always interested to see like, who were you inspired by? I know I've asked you that, Sarah, like what character or what actor have you been inspired by? Who's your favorite guy character? Who's your favorite girl character? Because, you know, nobody ever admits that they have a favorite child, but there's probably always a favorite child. So there's got to be a favorite character. You know what I mean? Like, who did you identify with?
Yeah, that's, you know, that's a really good question. And it's funny because I always say that the character that I wrote that I identify the most with is probably Tate. Not because I'm like a muscly dude, obviously I'm not, but, but it's because he's like this very severe introvert, and like his whole life people have given him a hard time about that. And that was like 100% what it was like growing up for me, which was super annoying because all I just wanted to do was like hang out by myself. But everybody was just like, oh, why don't you call your friends, or why don't you do this? And so like for a really long time when I was young, I thought like, oh, am I like weird? Am I like a creepy loner who like doesn't, you know, just because I don't have 100 friends on my phone at any given time. But then like I grew up and realized like, no, that's not anything to feel ashamed about. That's just how I prefer to be. And obviously I have wonderful friends who I like, Skye, who I could call on at any point. And like, and you know, if I needed anything, yeah, just like anybody else, I just prefer to spend most of my time by myself. So he's probably like my favorite because that like part of me is in him as a character. But obviously like Emmy has she has my background, and we have like a similar family situation, so that's really special. But like personality wise, Tate and I have a lot in common, I guess. At least like back in the day. I think I'm a little bit more personable and approachable now, but like growing up, people were just like, why do you make that face? Or like, oh, I didn't want to talk to you because you seemed really mean and like you didn't like anybody. And yeah. So anyway, long story short, Tate, I guess. Yeah.
First of all, I cannot imagine anybody not liking you. So like, you're so much nicer. You're like the nicest person I've ever met. But
I was going to say, you sound just like my husband. Like he's that closed off person until you really draw him in. So I get it. Him being married to a complete extrovert, like he's like, Brittni, how do you have so many people that you're talking to on like Instagram, and how are you talking to these author people? He was like, they don't have time to talk to you. I'm like, oh, they will make time. They'll have
You're darn right. I guess my favorite, I'm going to stick to the ones that you've seen books of, because like, I'm like, okay, but all right, because there are other people and other like characters, but I'm going to stick for the three. I have to say, I do think Nemesis is my favorite book of the three. I've always loved Will. I love how dark he is and how like deep down so insecure. Or not insecure, but like he has to work to overcome that. He's always been a huge, I love him. And then I do love Liv because I love how much she grows and what she goes through. I would say that originally, like Celeste was probably the most like me when I started writing, but I've changed. My whole life has changed so much. And it was really interesting because there's a scene in the book, a Nemesis, where Liv is like talking to Will and they're like establishing their relationship, and everything she's saying about like what she needs from him, like it punched me in the chest that I had written that, because when I wrote it, I hadn't lived any of that. And like in the meantime, I've gone through some things that it's like, oh my God. So like, I didn't even know what I was talking about when I wrote it, but reading it now, I'm like, oh my God. But Will's probably my favorite dude of these three, but they're each so charming and delightful. Nick is such a cute hipster. But of my type, probably Will, just because he's a little bit difficult. Ben is like the sweeter version of Will. But I like how Will's a little bit dark and complex and complicated. In terms of Sarah's books, I'm gonna have to say, as a spoiler alert, that the main man in Simmer Down is my favorite, which of course does not come out until October, but I did get the honor of reading it as a critique partner, and Callum is definitely my type.
I didn't know that when I wrote that. I was like, no, hot British guy, whatever. Yeah, like, yeah.
No,
Oh,
British guy. Yeah, no, that's
Not just like drooling over here. Don't tell my.
So no, I won't tell him that. But like Callum, when I read it, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm here for that. But yeah, for sure.
I also want to say, Skye, that like Ben is probably my favorite of your heroes. And this is going to sound I don't mean that for this to sound as bad as it does, but I love him because he reminds me of like a golden retriever. Like just everything about him is just likable, and he's like beautiful, and he's charming, and he's like sweet, and he plays a guitar, but he's not a douchebag. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Like, yeah, I just love him. He's my favorite. Sorry of yours, but yeah.
See, now I'm like, wait till you meet his brother, but you know.
Yeah.
Who is not nearly as sweet, but is quite a character. Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, that was nice.
Any other things? Any other questions? I don't want to keep y'all too long, but we're here, so.
No. I meant, no, you're not going to keep me here too long. Like, I'm stuck at home. I'd probably keep you guys too long.
No, fine.
No, I'm waiting to see some babies come out of any of these relationships.
Oh, yeah.
I was a young mom. Like, I got pregnant the first time at 22. I got pregnant the second time at 24 and then 26. We lost our first baby. But now, like, so I identify so much with these characters of like the chaotic love, and not that any of the stories are like a replica of mine and my husband's love story, but I get it, the chaos and the chaotic background, and I don't know, I identify with a lot of them for different reasons, but I'm like, I need some babies and stuff to come out. I need some, some to bring me even closer to them, because sometimes I'll be reading, like, especially you guys' books, because I feel like I know you guys now, so I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm reading a friend's book or whatever, so I'm like, ooh, what character am I? Like, I feel like I could fit with that character, so now I need her to have like a baby and marriage and all this stuff so that we can really be one person.
So I will tell you that you will see much later in the series that Celeste and Ben have a child. That comes later. They have a girl. Yeah. There is no, I can't tell you because Andrea is not finished reading Nemesis, so I can't say anything more about that. But there's more to that story. But and then now I'm super excited for you to get to the book after next, which is James Addison's story. Ben's brother James.
Which I knew you were going to have, because I was like, there is no way she's leaving James. And I thought that he was going to be within Nemesis somehow. I thought that was going to be almost like his story, because I was like, how can he be and I was like, no, that doesn't fit. And I was like trying to figure out what characters before I read like the description and stuff, I was like, I feel like the next character would definitely be James. He's got a lot to tell. Yeah.
So the next book is Megan, Liv's friend.
Yes.
And then just because of chronology, but then after that is James. And so in that story, there's a child factor. So yeah.
Okay.
That's exciting.
And there's also, I don't want to say which one, but in one of my upcoming books that are going to come out, there's also child baby situation happening. So
and I always appreciate the ones where it's like the child that either brings them together or the child that like it happens before the perfect like love story. Because my husband and I, we had our first 2 babies before we were even married. I mean, we had gotten engaged a week before we found out we were pregnant with our second. So I'm always like, that even connects me a little bit more to the stories. And I'm just like, see, it makes it real, but with a happy ending. And that's what I appreciate about like the rom-coms and the romance is even more than like the memoirs. I love the memoirs because I'm a PhD student in HDFS, so Human Development and Family Studies. And so I love that whole like into the mind of the characters. I love that depth. But what I appreciate about the romance is that it gives you that like conclusion, that happy ending without it being like too much. It's not like a fairy tale, but yeah.
Yeah.
Curious, what are your favorite romance authors?
Sarah, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I love, I have so many, I guess, but I love Stephanie Simpson. She's an indie romance author and she writes British contemporary romances. And she, like, I don't normally, I guess historically, I haven't really enjoyed reading series for some reason. And her series is like the first series that I was like, oh my God, I love this so much. I want to read every story she ever writes, every book, every epilogue, every like bonus novella, every bonus short story. Like she's amazing. She's definitely one of my favorites. Also, and I obviously Skye is also another person who I was like, oh, why would I read another like series? I'm like, oh, that's why, because like she does them the way that I like to do them, or the way that I like to read them. And then I really love Gemma Burgess. She writes, or she doesn't write books anymore, but because she writes screenplays now, but she used to write a lot of rom-com books. And her books are also like British contemporary romance. There's a theme here, obviously. So sorry if that's not really your thing, but yeah, for me, those are some, and I could go like on and on and on and name like a million, but like we don't have 7 hours, so I'll just keep it to that. Skye, who are your favorites? And well, you don't have to say me because I said you.
Because we know that you're one of my favorites. Duh, yeah. That's de facto. I really enjoy, I like what Abby Jimenez is doing. I think she's really like got a great voice. My gateway was Christina Lauren. I mean, the Beautiful series.
Oh my gosh. My husband's like, did you buy another one of those books? Those look crazy. I'm like, you want to read one? You'd really like it.
Yeah, no, Christina Lauren was totally the gateway. My top 3 right now, or like just sort of ongoing, are probably Lucy Parker. She's British. She does the London Celebrities series. I think she's fantastic. Ember Casey. Ember's series is also great. And then Brenna Aubrey. Brenna, she does the Gaming the System. And then Ember, she's got a couple of different series and she's fantastic. And also too, just kind of like to sort of like build on what you were saying earlier, Brittni, all 3 of the authors that I just named are like really well-established authors who have also been really supportive and communicative with me as I've like moved into publishing. And like, I just think that sort of like building on each other and helping each other is a beautiful thing. And I'm not naming them because they did that. I reached out to them because I love their work, but I really appreciated the like feedback that they gave too. So yeah, all 3 of them are just fantastic to me. So yeah. Well, ladies, shall we wrap it up? Sure. All right. Sarah, do you want to do the close?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, thanks for Zooming with us. That was really fun.
Thank you for the invite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for this. I know, like I said, I mean, I will talk, like, even just talking now, I'm like, oh, now I want to publish the other books so they can know what happens. Because it gives me so much life to know that the books are enjoyed. Like, that's why I'm here. It means everything. But yeah, thank you both for the Zoom. Who knows how this is going to come out in format, but I think we've got some great material. So we'll definitely be sharing this. It was great for me. That's our stick, right?
Yes,
it's good for me. Was it good for you, Sarah?
It was so good for me. Thank you, Brittni and Andrea. You guys are amazing. Seriously, you guys are just the loveliest people. And thank you for taking time out of your day for even wanting to talk to us. That's such a sweet thing to do. Because I know you're a mom, Brittni, and you have things to do, Andrea. So like, I totally understand.
It's nice to get away with you guys. So.
Oh,
It was great. It was great to talk to you and to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
Fantastic.
You guys are wonderful.
Really quickly, where is everybody located right now?
I'm in Minnesota.
Story City, Iowa.
I'm in Oregon, but I used to live in Nebraska for like most of my life.
Really?
Yeah. I hadn't been to Story City, but like I would always like have to go to Iowa for stuff. So, yeah.
If you take 20 over, then you for sure see it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm from Rockford, Illinois, which is right off of 22.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So because I'm in New York, we've got coast to coast and in the middle. That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being with us. This has been Quick and Dirty Romance on the Zoom, part of the Frolic Network. Thanks, you guys. Take care. Be good. Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Bye.